So I want to just give what I will couch as what I know about the latest at Pixel. What I will say broadly is that we are in a position that is unlike many when a major employer departs a community, in that it has been a sort of public affair, more so than, let's say, a steel mill going bankrupt and closing in Youngstown. And so as a part of that, we in government and other community leaders have been in probably multiple meetings per week since the week of April 15th. Whether it is processing communications from Pixel, creating resources, potential resources for former employees at Pixel, trying to create an environment that would attract a new purchaser, working through the types of incentives that might attract new purchasers, working through how to position the community to acquire the property, the community to mitigate any environmental concerns that are certainly on that property. And it has felt like a whole lot of hurry up and wait, because we have been very busy, but have not been able to relay or experience much progress. We've met with potential purchasers and conversations, and what my experience is now, what I know, which is probably what has been relayed to the public before, but might be helpful to hear from me, is that HIG, the company that owns Pixel, is solicited and is still considering purchase options. So that's what I know today about the position of that facility. I'll comment on a couple other things. I spoke with the USW union president, which is the union that represented the largest number of employees at the mill, because there were recent reports about Pixel not paying employees and holding back final paychecks and pensions, 401ks, that sort of thing. So I called and talked to Jeff, and Jeff reported to me that as far as he knew, every employee who had a payroll issue has now been paid, and his understanding was that because the final payouts were an odd way of doing payroll, that it was a payroll issue, not an intentional held back situation. So as of talking to him, his understanding was that all employees have been paid. When speaking about any pension or 401k issues, he let me know that in terms of employees who have been at Pixel, over the years they have negotiated different contracts. So some employees are vested in the pension program, and other employees, depending on when they've started, are in a 401k program. As most people know, those programs are often managed by an entity other than the employer. And then all of those programs have different rules around cashing out and that sort of thing. What he relayed to me was that his understanding was that from what he saw as the union president, Pixel was doing nothing to intentionally withhold any pension payments or any 401k cash outs, that sort of thing. That there were communications between Pixel and the entity that does the pension management, the 401k management, that sort of thing, about making sure that those things happen well. He also told me that there were internal communications with HR to make sure, because there have been layoffs, but that they are not complete, those are coming, that there have been internal communications how to make those last payrolls work as they're supposed to work. And so what I left with him was that, I will keep lines of communication open with him to make sure that I am receiving the right information about that facility, and that if there is a way that the city or the county or the state can help, whether it's the force of law or some other way, that we might be able to do that. That topic is a segue to the next topic, which is Pixel's operation of 2 wells that have kept a contaminated toxic plume left over from the Wearover site, now managed by Howmet, and the EPA's previous and continuing concerns that the cessation of those wells could lead to the migration of that plume. So I've had several conversations and meetings with the EPA so that I can understand, as a layperson, what the technical aspects are of that situation, because it sounds very bad. Now, I reported on this 2 council meetings ago. My understanding, as I reported it then, I've confirmed with the EPA that my understanding is correct. What has changed since that meeting is that the EPA, that Howmet has agreed to install 2 additional monitoring wells, whose task it is to monitor anything that is in the ground. But additionally, the EPA is not satisfied with that as an end result. And so, from my impression, what we have is a situation that is approximately 30+ years old. And the biggest question that I have posed to the EPA is, what is the scenario that requires full remediation and cleanup, and what is the scenario that requires monitoring? I think for us, from a legal aspect, this community deserves the answer to what is the answer to that question. And so I have set up a meeting with representatives from the EPA and the City Council and Ross County Commissioners, so that we can hear directly from the EPA answers to those and other questions that we have. Because I think it's one thing to hear talking points, and it's another thing to actually for us to understand those questions. And so my understanding today is that the wells that exist and are in operation by Pixel are still in existence and operation, and that the cessation of paper-making activities at the paper mill does not necessarily mean that the wells stop operating. And the wells are what have maintained the location of the plume over time. And so what I think we need to know as a community is, A, why was the cleanup not required in the first place? Because obviously these have been here for a long time. And B, what scenario either tells us, okay, now Howmet has to clean it up? Because what EPA has told me is that the response from Howmet is the response that they are satisfied with today for a short-term scenario. They don't expect 2 new monitoring wells to be the permanent scenario, obviously because it is unclear what happens to the existing wells that are keeping the plume at bay, for lack of a better way of saying it. And so, like with Pixel, I will continue to report what I know, and I think it's only appropriate that if at the appropriate time there becomes the need for us to either support the EPA's request or demands to Howmet, or find out how those the wells need to continue to operate, whatever it is, I feel confident that at least my communications with the EPA and their willingness to either A, inform us, answer questions, answer calls, I feel like that open door has been very helpful. Relaying information to the public right now feels like my responsibility, and then the long-term either maintenance, or I think as a community we would prefer remediation and cleanup, is where I think we need to get to. And so figuring out what how we get to that end goal is sort of the end question that I think we need answered from the Ohio EPA. Segue from there, my monthly office hours this month are at the water treatment plant tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. I'm doing my regular office hours, come, show up, answer any questions you might have. But the folks who run the water treatment plant are going to be there. They will answer questions you have to the extent they can on technical questions, but then they're also going to facilitate a tour or tours of the water treatment plant. So if you haven't done that before, I don't think we've done tours. We shut them down during COVID, and so that's starting up again. I think that's a good opportunity for people, A, to just know where the water treatment plant is. I think people drive by that facility and don't know what it is. It's on back road, so if you go back through the park towards Borland's Crossing, that's the water treatment plant tomorrow at 9 a.m.